Before the Statute of Secrecy, interactions between magical and non-magical people were frequent and often fraught with danger. Muggles, fearing what they didn't understand, often persecuted witches and wizards. This era was marked by suspicion and hostility from both sides. The fear of Muggle prejudice was a powerful force shaping early wizarding society. Witches and wizards learned to hide their abilities, practicing magic in secret to avoid persecution. This constant threat fostered a deep-seated wariness towards the non-magical world. Hiding magic became a matter of survival. This necessity led to the development of complex concealment charms and spells. It also resulted in the gradual isolation of the wizarding community, pushing them further away from their Muggle neighbors. This period saw tragic events like the infamous witch hunts. Innocent magical folk were persecuted and killed by fearful Muggles. These historical traumas left deep scars on the collective memory of the wizarding world. The need for safety became paramount. Wizards and witches began to congregate in hidden villages and communities. They sought refuge from the very people they had once lived openly alongside. This growing separation wasn't just physical, it was cultural. Wizarding traditions and ways of life evolved independently. They became increasingly distinct from the Muggle world, widening the gulf of understanding. The lack of open interaction bred ignorance on both sides. Muggles developed fantastical, often fearful ideas about magic. Wizards in turn grew wary and sometimes dismissive of Muggle capabilities and concerns. The memory of persecution lingered for centuries. It became a foundational reason for the strict adherence to secrecy. The past dictated the future of Muggle-wizard relations. Even simple acts of magic became dangerous. A misplaced spell or an accidental transformation could have dire consequences. Life for a witch or wizard in the open Muggle world was precarious. The early days were a crucible for wizarding identity. It forced them to define themselves in opposition to the Muggle world. This defensive posture became ingrained in their culture. The historical roots of the statute are firmly planted in this era of fear and conflict. Understanding this period is key to understanding the wizarding world's relationship with Muggles today. It was a time of difficult choices for magical families. Some attempted to integrate, often with tragic results. Others retreated entirely, severing ties with Muggle relatives. This period laid the groundwork for the pureblood ideology. The desire to avoid Muggle contact and persecution led some to believe that separation was not just necessary but superior. The historical narrative is clear. Open coexistence was tried, and it failed. The cost was too high. This failure directly led to the monumental decision to enact the Statute of Secrecy. The culmination of centuries of persecution and fear was the International Statute of Secrecy, enacted in 1692. This landmark legislation fundamentally altered the relationship between the two worlds. It mandated the complete concealment of the magical world from Muggles. The statute was a global agreement among magical communities. It established strict rules for hiding magic, punishing those who exposed it. This was a unified effort to protect the wizarding way of life. The newly formed Ministry of Magic played a crucial role in its implementation and enforcement. They were tasked with regulating magical activity and preventing breaches of secrecy. This gave the ministry immense power and responsibility. Maintaining the separation required constant vigilance. The ministry developed departments dedicated solely to this task, like the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, often dealing with creatures Muggles might encounter. The impact on both worlds was profound. For the wizarding world, it brought relative safety and the freedom to practice magic openly among themselves. It allowed their unique culture to flourish without external threat. However, the cost was significant isolation. Wizards and witches became increasingly detached from Muggle society. They developed their own infrastructure, economy, and social norms, often viewing the Muggle world with a mix of curiosity and disdain. For the Muggle world, the impact was ignorance. Magic became relegated to myth and fairy tales. They remained unaware of the vibrant, complex society existing alongside them, leading to misconceptions and a lack of understanding. The benefits of secrecy were clear: protection from persecution and the preservation of magical knowledge. Without the statute, the wizarding world might not have survived or thrived as it did. But the costs were also evident: a lack of empathy and understanding between the communities. Wizards often saw Muggles as ignorant or even dangerous, while Muggles remained oblivious. The statute wasn't universally popular. Some pureblood families resented the need to hide, while others felt it didn't go far enough in separating the worlds. Debates about its necessity and effectiveness continued. The implementation of the statute required massive magical undertakings. Memory charms, concealment spells, and complex wards were used on a global scale to erase evidence of magic from Muggle sight. This era solidified the concept of Muggleborns as a bridge, albeit a sometimes controversial one. Their existence proved that magic wasn't confined to isolated pureblood lines, challenging the idea of complete separation. The Statute of Secrecy became the cornerstone of wizarding law. It dictated everything from how magical creatures were handled to how international relations between magical governments were conducted. Living in complete secrecy inevitably leads to misunderstandings on both sides. Muggles, lacking any real knowledge of magic, often have wildly inaccurate perceptions. Their understanding is limited to folklore and superstition. Common misconceptions abound, often portrayed humorously in the books. Muggles might believe wizards use wands like ray guns, or that magic solves every problem instantly. Their frame of reference is entirely non-magical. The wizarding world's culture, shaped by centuries of secrecy, contributes to this perception. Their unusual customs, archaic language like using galleons instead of pounds, and general unfamiliarity can seem strange or even threatening to Muggles. Think of the Dursleys' reaction to anything magical. Their fear and hostility stem from a complete lack of understanding, and a deep-seated discomfort with anything outside their narrow, predictable world. They see magic as inherently abnormal and dangerous. This secrecy can have negative consequences. It prevents Muggles from understanding the true nature of magic, its responsibilities, and its limitations. It also prevents wizards from fully appreciating the complexities and advancements of the Muggle world. Wizards themselves can hold misconceptions about Muggles. Some purebloods view them as simple, helpless, or even inferior. This prejudice is a direct result of the lack of meaningful interaction and understanding. Arthur Weasley's fascination with Muggles is notable precisely because it's somewhat unusual. His genuine curiosity highlights how rare and valuable cross-cultural interest is in a world defined by separation. The lack of shared experience means wizards and Muggles have little common ground. Their daily lives, concerns, and priorities are vastly different, making empathy and connection difficult. This dynamic creates a paternalistic relationship, where the wizarding world acts as a hidden guardian. Muggles are protected but kept in the dark, unable to make informed choices about their own safety regarding magic. The portrayal of Muggles in wizarding culture can sometimes be condescending. Terms like Muggleborn or Squib reflect a hierarchy based on magical ability, which can be hurtful and divisive. This lack of understanding can be exploited, as seen during Voldemort's rise. His followers' disdain for Muggles and Muggleborns was fueled by prejudice and ignorance, a direct consequence of the long-standing separation. Despite the strict enforcement of the Statute of Secrecy, history is punctuated by moments when the two worlds inevitably collided. These instances, often dramatic, reveal the fragile nature of the separation. They also highlight the shared humanity that exists beneath the surface. One of the most significant periods of convergence was the Second Wizarding War. Voldemort and his Death Eaters did not adhere to the statute, openly using dark magic in Muggle areas. This brought the reality of the wizarding conflict crashing into the Muggle world. Muggles experienced the war's effects firsthand. Though they often didn't understand the cause, Dementors attacked, bridges collapsed, and strange phenomena occurred, causing widespread fear and confusion. The Ministry struggled to contain the chaos and maintain the facade of normalcy. The Battle of Hogwarts, while primarily a wizarding conflict, had implications for the Muggle world. The sheer scale of the magical warfare and the presence of dark creatures could not be entirely hidden, requiring massive cleanup and memory modification efforts afterwards. Dumbledore, known for his profound understanding of human nature, including Muggles, also represented a more nuanced perspective within the wizarding leadership. He recognized the value and potential of the Muggle world. The evolving relationship is complex. While the statute remains, events like the war demonstrated that complete separation is impossible when major magical conflicts occur. This raises questions about the long-term viability of absolute secrecy. The post-war era saw a period of rebuilding and reflection. The wizarding world had to grapple with the consequences of their conflict spilling over into the Muggle realm. These historical instances serve as case studies. They show what happens when the veil is lifted, even partially, and the challenges and possibilities that arise from such encounters. The moments of convergence challenge the simplistic narrative of complete separation. They reveal a more complex reality where the two worlds are constantly influencing each other, even in secret. These events are crucial for understanding the potential future. They provide lessons learned about the difficulties and potential benefits of increased interaction and understanding between Muggles and wizards. They remind us that despite the magic and the secrecy, both communities are made up of people with fears, hopes, and the capacity for both great good and great harm. The history of convergence is a history of unintended consequences and unexpected connections. It shows that the boundary between the worlds is not as impermeable as the statute of secrecy intends it to be.